What's going on, everybody? So I am about to watch the movie Coda, which I am one as well. And I saw a preview for it and got very emotional. So I'm expecting for this to definitely be an emotional situation, just because it's very a personal topic. And I'm very excited to see how it goes and to give you my reaction and not review, because I'm certainly not a movie reviewer, but my feelings on how they tapped into the Coda community and the deaf community. So I'm very excited to watch this movie, and I'm ready for this. So I don't know if I'm ready for this actually, but we'll see either way. All right, so I watched the movie, and the first thing I want to say is, which is applause in American Sign Language. Very well done. I, as you can see, was emotional right off the rip, and that was just a soft version of how it got. It got so extreme that I was in obviously no mood to grab a phone and film myself crying. But yeah, it was a very well done, great movie. I am very excited at how the deaf community and now obviously the Coda community is coming to light more and more, and even starting with simple things as an Amazon commercial that I have seen where it highlighted a deaf family and an Amazon father who is deaf working. Because for some reason people still believe that deaf people are anything besides just not being able to hear, and that is literally it. Obviously every person varies, but that is pretty much it. I wanted to, before I get into the movie Coda, I wanted to also throw out a quick shout out to John Krasinski for being so determined, and I'm spacing on the word because it took me a while to actually even make this video, because I was so emotionally thrown that it actually gave me a headache, and then made me nauseous, and then I had to just take a moment because it was that emotional. But back to shout out to John Krasinski for insisting on having a deaf actress play his daughter, who was Millicent Simmons. I'm sorry if I am not saying that name properly. And she did a beautiful job in Quiet Place Part 1 and Part 2. So let me get into the movie Coda. Just for a quick reference, this is my opinion only. This is not anything. I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody. This is my own personal opinion. So let's get started. First of all, what I noticed right off the bat was that though we are both Codas, just to give a little preference on myself and the character, she is a family of all deaf people, whereas I had two siblings who were also hearing. So I was not the only person in my family that was able to hear. So I was very impressed by, obviously, Marlee Matlin. She has always been an amazing figure. She played the role of Jackie Rossi, and she again insisted on having all deaf actors play the roles of deaf actors, as it should be. And obviously the father was played by Troy Kasser, and he played the role of Frank, and the son was played by Daniel Durant, and he played Leo Rossi, and they all did such a great job. And the father, I must say, was absolutely hilarious. He made me laugh, cry, all of the above. He reminded me of my own father in many ways, mainly his humor. My father had a pretty funny sense of humor, so he reminded me of that. The movie did a great job showing the pressures it can be on a Coda to feel to help her family out, because being deaf, we can't imagine what it's like unless you're deaf. I can't imagine what it's like at all, and I've been as close to it besides being deaf, being surrounded by deaf people since I was a child and so on. So it's one of those moments, like there was a moment in the movie where, because the daughter's role is that she is a great singer and she's being pushed to sing by many people, and she is at a concert and she is singing, and her father is sitting there and witnessing everyone around him enjoying this concert that he cannot hear at all. And, you know, and as they circle around him, I highly, 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 I should have said this in the beginning, suggest you go see this movie, please. It is on Apple TV and it is just amazing. They're circling around him, and as they get back to his face, it goes to complete silence. Complete silence. And I immediately just broke, because I know that's the world that my mother lives in. That's the world that my father lived in. And it's got to be, who knows? That's got to be absolutely just. So anyway, I also was able to relate to the interpreter situation. The family depended dearly on the daughter Ruby to interpret for them, and I have been in that position myself where I've had to interpret for my parents for a few things, which makes you tend to grow up pretty quickly. So that was a very great part of the movie that they touched on the pressures of a Coda having to take on the role of an adult early or consistently, to where they push their own things to the side because they love their family and they know that their family needs them. And unfortunately, what I found out from my mother today after watching the movie and seeing how people were treating these deaf people, that there are apparently people who still treat deaf people as, and I'm saying the word that they said in the movie, called a deaf person a freak, which I was shocked about because I didn't even think that was associated, but okay. No, it's not okay. I can't get into that because then this will turn into a rage thing, and I don't want this to turn into a rage thing. I can't express that our lives, mine and Ruby's lives as Codas, are very, very different. She had a very different relationship with her family than I had with mine. She grew up knowing sign language. Unfortunately, I did not grow up knowing sign language. My communication was very bad with my mother and my father, but I tried the best I can, although I do forget a lot of my sign language. So it's very hard, and me and my mother are trying very hard to relearn sign language, or for me to not relearn, but to get better at sign language. The part where Ruby asked her mother if she wished she was born deaf, and her mother said that to cut it to the end, her mother said that when she did return, being told that her daughter was hearing, her heart sank. Now, I can only imagine how much easier it is for a deaf person to have a deaf child due to just communication issues alone and whatnot. I asked my mother actually today after watching the movie in my emotions. I said, because I was pretty sure I already remembered what she had said, but I asked my mother that same question a while ago, and she had told me that of course me being born deaf would have been easier, but she never cared either way. And that has always stuck with me, even though at times I was always convinced that my mother would have preferred a deaf child. I know my mother, and I know that she would have loved me regardless, and that's a fact. And not saying that Marlee Matlin's character was saying she didn't love her daughter regardless. She just felt that she wouldn't be as good of a mother to her if her daughter was hearing, because she had a son previously to the character Ruby who was deaf, so she had no experience, whereas my mother already had a older child who was hearing, so she was already totally prepped and ready to go. So that's also the very big difference in that coordinating my personal life and the movie. The father, played again by Troy Costner, his character's name was Frank Rossi, did such an amazing job in this movie. His power of showing his frustrations, living in being a deaf man in a hearing world, and his humor, his everything was just absolutely very touching, and the way that he was able to really tap into his daughter when he realized that she was putting herself to the side was very beautiful. And there's a part in the movie, because people are under the impression that deaf people are not allowed to do a lot of things. Like, for instance, one of the craziest things I've ever been, or one of the craziest situations I've been in, not one of, but I'll just give a crazy example, was I'll try to give the condensed version. But I was sitting at school, and this girl was sitting next to me who I was obviously known as the girl with the deaf parents. And this girl said, "Oh, how are you getting home?" And I said, "Oh, my father's coming to pick me up." And this is her exact reaction. "He can drive?" Now, people have asked if my parents can read Braille. They think that they're just inoperable just because they can't hear. And people are always shocked when I say that they, especially my mother, loved listening to music, and they don't. I have to explain to them it's due to vibrations, and they could feel it, and that is tapped onto in this movie as well, which I love. And there's a very beautiful, beautiful scene at the end of the movie between the father and daughter. After she did her concert, and he felt that he wasn't able to, really connect. And it was just such a beautiful moment between the two of them that it really tapped on to a relationship between a father who can't hear and a daughter who can. I'm sorry if I'm a little all over the place. The movie really got me pretty emotional. It doesn't take much to get me emotional when it comes to the deaf or Coda community. It's a very, it's just not a very it's not a community that's talked about much, or I'm trying to figure out the word. People just aren't quick to help the deaf community, and I've witnessed it my entire life, and it's very frustrating. And I've noticed more and more, like I said earlier, that it's coming more and more to light, and that makes me so happy. Another relation between myself and the character Ruby was that we both love music. My older brother and my younger brother also love music. It's obviously in my intro that music is part of something that I love very much. So I think, and it's interesting because Marlee Matlin's character taps onto her daughter's love of music in a inquisitive way. That's why I'm not going to give you too much things, because I just want you guys, anyone to please go see, everyone to go see that movie. It is a great movie about a subject that's not talked about very often. It was done beautifully. It was just great. It was very well done, and I'm very happy with it. I called my mother immediately right after, and it was just, it was nice to be able to talk to her about it. We're probably going to watch the movie together and maybe make a reaction video together. Who knows? But this is really just my feelings. I really just wanted to get my feelings out on the movie, because this has been, my life up until a certain point. I respect my parents very much for what they've been through. So I don't really know how to end this, except for the fact that I'm just very, very happy with the way the movie came out. There was one thing that I was a little bothered by, which was I'm very excited that Marlee Matlin was very huge on hiring all deaf actors, although I don't really understand why she wasn't, or anybody who was in charge of the movie, not that up for making sure that a actual Coda played the role of the Coda. Because even though the role of Ruby was done well, not only is she not a Coda, she doesn't know, she had to be taught sign language. It kind of seems a little I don't want to say hypocritical, but here's a movie called Coda, and the person who's playing the role of the Coda is pretty far from it. But with that said, she did an amazing job. So I would like to end with that. Sorry for any pauses, all the, it was just a very emotional movie. I ended it a while ago, but I just needed to collect myself and get myself back together to try to make this, which I don't even really know how this is going to come out. So, but please, I can't beg everyone enough to go check out Coda on Apple TV Plus or Apple TV. Either way, it's a wonderful film, and you won't regret it. So again, it was great talking to you guys, especially about this subject matter, and I will see you guys again soon.